Hello everybody, welcome to Line of Light. My name's Kelly Palmer and I have some questions about ET contact and disclosure that I'm going to tune in and try to channel some answers for us today. I've looked into this subject before, but it's been a really long time since I've asked for a specific update. Not since the beginning of the year, I think. And this was very deliberate on my part. I am really invested in this area. I'm a galactic astrologer. I've seen UFOs. I've experienced ET contact in kind of more dreamy, astral kind of spaces. And obviously this being my line of work and having a lot of starseed homesickness myself, I am super, super excited for ET contact. So I am not a neutral channel or a neutral point of information for this. And I have had to learn to surrender and let go and trust the timing of this, just like everybody else who's super excited. So part of learning to trust and let go and work on my own little corner of the world and be the best that I can be has meant not tuning into this question every other day. But I'm really feeling like the time for a check-in is now, and I've been getting a lot of synchronicities around this. And I'm going to talk to you guys how I'm even coming to ask some of these questions as I go, in case you're experiencing similar kind of synchronicities to me, and so that you guys can get an idea for how to make this kind of contact yourself as well as we go. I'm running a call on galactic homesickness on Wednesday night, details in the comments, and this session is kind of like research for me. I'm doing a big check-in. All right, we're feeling a little bit starsick, we're missing our homes. Obviously, disclosure is going to be a huge part of bridging, Earth and the cosmos, the heaven and now. And yet, I'm sure all of us who are sensitive or interested in the space, or in any way informed, or even just guessing by ourselves, can understand that when we get ET disclosure, it's not going to be instant heaven on Earth. It's not going to be, oh sweet, hi E.Ts, thanks for descending from the heavens and giving us 0-point energy and all these healing devices and teaching us how to run the world without corruption and so on. Of course, that's not going to be how it goes down immediately. There's going to be a good 75% of the planet at least is going to be pooping their pants and calling out the end times. And fair enough, it is the end of an era that we're moving into. And we're going to have lots of compassion and lots of love and care as we move through this season of disclosure, which I feel very strongly is coming up. But nevertheless, let's check in. Let's see what we can get on this. See if it compares with anything that other channelers are bringing through. Or if I can even get anything in on this, because I assume that there's a lot here that can't be answered and that may be left up in the air, but maybe that's not the case anymore. So let's just breathe, feel into it, and I'm going to explain what I'm doing and how I'm doing it as I go. So first of all, the signs and synchronicities that led me here. If you are seeing owls, or you get owl signs in your life, or maybe if there's like a strong owl energy around you, or you've just had owls as a kind of interesting symbol or totem around you in your lifetime, this might be relevant to you. Because owls are one of those things for me where people kept bringing them to me through my life. And I was very academic, so it makes sense that when people are like, hey, this girl got a grade today, here, have a plush owl with glasses and a graduation cap on or something. It makes sense that people would associate academic people with owls. But they've also really stood out to me in my life in these ways, when you just can't get something out of your head, like you hear a song or you see something or something just speaks to you on that other level. And it just seems to echo through you for days or weeks or months or even years to come. I get that with owl encounters, as well as with encounters with nightjars, which are very similar to owls. In Australia, we get these tawny frog mouths, and they look a lot like owls, and they're night predators, and they're super beautiful animals. And I've had a lot of encounters with them, which I'm kind of putting under the owl umbrella as well. But if you don't want to count them as owls, that's fine too. But these night birds, right? Like when you happen upon them, it's really difficult to not be moved in some way. It's hard to just see an owl or, a nightjar of some kind and just keep on walking. If they've come and sat on the washing line, for example, I really feel like, I've been visited by something. And owls have always had this energy for me. I've had nightjars just come into the house. You've seen a video online where I got to pat a kookaburra, another animal not totally dissimilar to nightjars, but obviously a bit different. But yeah, they really, really resonate with me, where I'm not seeking them out, but they seem to come to me. And there's this line in that David Lynch show, Twin Peaks, if anyone's seen Twin Peaks, where this lady who's a bit of this like crackpot oracle archetype says the owls are not what they seem. And she keeps repeating, the owls are not what they seem. And there's this kind of eerie, uncanny E.T. energy around those moments and around those lines. And I've always had this funny sense that like, birds are not birds, right? And you get these conspiracy theories about birds being these like robot cameras and things like that too. And I think perhaps we're all feeling this messenger energy, this spiritual messenger energy from these animals, which probably encapsulates a whole multi-dimensional galactic experience, right? Like, just because this is an Earth animal doesn't mean it doesn't have an E.T. energy. Whales and dolphins are really good examples of this too. Often people who are really drawn to these aquatic mammals have memories of Sirius B, or at least sense that E.T. frequency. The healing in their voice, that communication that transcends language, and that deep intelligence that looks nothing like what human intelligence or progress looks like, but that nevertheless is deep and ancient and powerful in its own right. So, owls. Driving home on Friday night, we had an owl fly directly under the car as we were driving. Or as one of our kids very darkly and funnily announced over our prayers that night, that an owl committed suicide that night, which was it wasn't a dark moment and it wasn't super freaky. It was more just like, oh my gosh, an owl, and then it was gone under the car. And the kids handled it quite well. They were like, is this okay? And then they kind of found it funny, and they were able to express their sadness, but also able to make kind of a dark joke about it. So I was super proud of them for being able to process it in that way. And I share this only to share the energy of that moment. It wasn't like this big, dark, scary omen of like, oh my gosh, this animal has been murdered and we're going to have bad luck for 5 generations or whatever. It was more just like, that owl really wanted to be seen. Like, that was not a subtle sign from spirit. It was bam, owl, boomp. And as it went, as we drove off, it was like flapping, and they got totaled by the car behind us as well. But it's like wings were out. It was really making itself visible before it died. And before I sat down, I did invite in my galactic guides, my angelic guides of light and love, and I invited my higher self to speak through me so that I could basically treat myself with these questions as another person that I'm reading for, and trust that as I'm talking about this, the answers are going to start flowing, and maybe it'd be a more seamless channel. And what I'm getting from this very, very strongly is that I feel like I'm really specifically locking into one E.T. group where there is almost a kind of suicide mission playing out. I'm gonna feel into that just a little bit more, but I just want to say that all weekend I've been seeing white owls since that incident, just white owls non-stop. I sat down to do some readings today, and the 2 cards that fell out of the deck for me before I started were this card, Wise One, grow within your current situation, with this beautiful white owl and this crone energy. And then when I picked that card up and went, oh wow, there's that owl again for like the 20th time in the last couple of days, this was the card under that one, White Witch, be the light. And we've got a white owl there too. Then I read my toilet book today. This is the book that I keep in the toilet, Tower Poo. Very funny, right? And I tend to use it like a bit of an oracle. So I've read this already, and then I just open it up to a page and trust that there's a message for me. And so I was on the toilet, getting ready to come do this call, and then I opened this up and I said, okay, I'm going to go talk to E.Ts, try to get some information on disclosure. Opened up this book, and this was the line that I looked at first. To understand all this a little better, it might help to look at someone who is quite the opposite. Someone like, for, well, say, Owl, for example. So literally the book just told me to go look at owls before I come and talk to E.Ts about disclosure. So there's my oversharing information on all the owls in my life at the moment and which book I read in the toilet. So what I'm getting coming through is this kind of like suicide mission energy from some ET group. And whenever I think of the owls and ET visitation, the greys come up really, really strongly. And I've got the Arcturians in my field already, so I feel the Arcturians with me. I feel my higher self with me, speaking through me very, very strongly. And then I feel some angels just very distantly in the background. I also keep seeing 4, 5, 6 everywhere. It's 4, 5, 6 now as I'm recording, and I know that that's a character in Squid Game, which I'm kind of peripherally aware of. So if that means something to you and that's a sign, I'm seeing 4, 5, 6 like crazy. Maybe in relating it in this video, you'll make sense of that and I'll stop seeing it. Who knows? But okay, so the Arcturians are highlighting the greys for me right now. Whenever I see the owls and ET, they're like, yeah, that's the greys, and they keep highlighting that for me. Interesting that the Arcturians come in to speak to the greys for me instead of the greys coming in. And I'm reminded of Area 51. So Area 51, from some perspectives and understanding, was a kind of, or there have been in connection to that, other kind of suicide missions of ETs coming in, getting shot down, and that being either like, depending on who you're talking to, a kind of Trojan horse to start getting contact off the ground and happening. Sometimes people see other missions where ETs have come down to give technology to disrupt the system, to disarm nuclear bombs, as kind of suicide missions. So whenever you hear these stories about UFOs actually getting shot down, and people might have these questions, well, how is that even possible if they're so advanced? We've got to understand that a lot of these ETs come to the planet understanding that they're not a perfect frequency match here, that the way they operate isn't always going to work in this dense system, and they come here knowing that they likely will perish on these missions, whatever they are. I'm getting the strong feeling that there are ETs currently considering that at the moment. If not, there have already been kind of suicide missions happening. I don't know much about that Las Vegas situation where a craft came down and there were apparently people reporting seeing kind of, you know, monster-looking kind of extraterrestrials in the neighborhood. I don't know how much of that is a hoax or not. Maybe we'll get some information on that in this video. But really getting the strong sense that there are ETs who are absolutely not following the book or the Galactic Light or Federation protocol on disclosure. I'm really getting the strong sense that Earth's environment, so, you know, the space outside the Earth, around the moon, just beyond the moon, in our orbit, in our atmosphere, as well as on the planet, and as well as brushing up against kind of portals and in the astral spaces, are lots of ETs, basically like crowds of onlookers. And I imagine it's getting quite difficult for the authority to kind of see themselves as, you know, maintaining the perimeter of Earth and helping midwife us through this process, that they can't always be in control of all of this, right? And we have free will. So I'm getting the sense that there are a lot of renegade ETs trying to like break through the veil sooner than others. I need to say too, this has already been happening for hundreds, thousands of years. ET contact has always been a thing. We've always divined with ETs. We've not always called them ETs, or rather, as we've translated historical and religious texts, we've lost the language, or rather, we've replaced the language. We talk about chariots and gods in the sky instead of, the Starship Enterprise. We've used sci-fi language to replace the fantastic religious mythical language, right? But we're essentially talking about the same thing. So ETs have always been here, and they've always wanted to make themselves known to us and be in relationship with us. For many of us, this happens through dreams. Some of us have had abduction experiences, either in the physical or in the astral. And some of us, quite simply, just have strong connections with guides, even people physically incarnated, who have this strong extraterrestrial energy, which we may or may not recognize. But what I'm talking about here now is ETs kind of bursting through the veil and making themselves known. This happens, I'm hearing, much more easily with those engaging with protocols, inviting in these ETs, because you meet them halfway, right? And it's a big permission slip. So especially those ETs who are more benevolent and are seeking permission on a conscious level, who want to meet you in this peaceful, loving, open, we come in peace kind of way, they're really going to respond to those of us who are openly inviting communication. And I'm getting here that that's not something that takes place on a whim. So here, ritual is important. And I know that word can carry some connotations, but bear with me for a moment. So, if we're just saying like, oh, I'd really like to go on holiday next week, and you say that on a whim, and then the universe goes, okay, here are your tickets, you won a holiday, you're leaving next week. And then you might go, oh, wait, actually, no, like I'm performing in a play next week. I can't go away next week. It just wouldn't work. I didn't really mean it when I said it out loud. The universe just can't act on all of our whims. We have to really be serious about it and ask with sincerity and intention and willingness to receive. Ritual or protocols or just some more concrete steps you can take makes that really clear to beings who are more integrated and multidimensional that you're serious about this. So you're saying it's not just a whim. Look, I took some steps. Look, I went and I built a big crop circle in my yard, or I put an earth flag on the front door, or I went camping and stargazing and I prayed all night for some kind of revelation, for some kind of vision to come and confirm to me that we're not alone in the universe. Things like that. And, I could share some protocols with you from like CE5 or Lissa Royal Holt, and they're all out there and they're all available to you. But I think the most important thing that you can do at this time, and for all of the years moving forward, indeed for all of your life, is work with what feels good to you. What feels loving, what feels open, and what also makes you feel like you're safe and have strong boundaries here, okay? Because, again, when ET disclosure happens, whether it's happening personally on a one-on-one level with you and your guides, or whether it's happening, on national news and this big global scale, there's going to be a lot of fear around this, okay? And no matter how ready we are, no matter how excited we are to meet all these beings, obviously if something incarnates right in front of you and it looks like a giant prawn or octopus or grasshopper or something, you might have a little amygdala response, and that's okay. I saw spirit in the house a couple of weeks ago with my eyes open, and I got the heebie-jeebies super bad, and I didn't get any bad vibes from the spirit. It was just totally neutral, just there, but still I couldn't help getting that feeling all over me, and I went into mum mode and saged the house and said all my protocols about let everything be safe and of light and love and refortifying all the light on the house and all of that. So just understanding that there's going to be that fear response. Let's not judge ourselves for that. But it's going to be important that you feel really safe and protected. And, this is not to bring in any new fear or anything. But obviously when we feel a bit scared, a couple of things can happen. We can push away the benevolent energy by going, oh my gosh, get away, and they have to listen. It's also kind of scary and repulsive for them. Not that they're judging you either, but if you're going to go up to a wild animal and you're like, ooh, I hope it's okay, and then it starts screaming at you, you're probably going to step back as well, right? And the other thing that fear can do is it magnetizes more fear-bringing things to you. Law of attraction, right? So it's not the case that we feel fear and then all of a sudden like demons are going to get us. It's not that scary. But obviously, if you've had boundaries issues in your life, if you've got problems with dependency, or, you felt like dark spirits or something on you, I certainly have had, attachments or exposure to that in my life before. And so I know it's really important for me to be able to just have protocols where I say things like, I only invite in experiences that are healing, loving, and honest. Things like that. Or I might say, my energy stays with me, I am safe, I am sovereign, I am whole, nothing can harm me or be taken away from me, and I respect the energy of whoever's coming into the space with me too. Their energy stays with them, they are safe and protected, and I might even imagine just like a grounding cord coming from me and the being I'm talking to, or put a bubble of light. Again, this might not be necessary at all, but just some examples for whatever works for you. As Daryl Anker and Bashar say, I love this term, a lot of these are permission slips, right? Whether you're using Reiki or witchcraft or more scientific protocols, or just using your own free will and voice, or, Bible prayers and passages can be great too. Like some of those prayers calling in Archangel Michael are just fantastic. We just clear everything with white light. Whatever you use, the important thing is that you feel safe and that you believe that you're actually able to open a connection there. So believe when you're inviting in these energies that it is like dialing a number on a phone. In the same way that we can just dial a number on a phone at will and then magically the little signals in the air connect us up, that's what happens when we're dialing in our guides or telepathically communicating with extraterrestrial beings, for example. It really can be that simple, okay? All right. So I've got a couple of questions written down here. What I am hoping is the case is that I've written down a bunch of these questions, and I hope that as I tune in, just the energy of all of those questions is being held there. I don't have to go over every single one of them. I don't have to treat it like an interview where I tick the box. I'm just going to trust that all of these questions have been captured in the intention and the energy of this recording and transmission, and that what we are ready to hear at this time, what we need to hear at this time, is going to emerge and spill forth organically. Okay, so one of my first lot of questions was, why is the owl a symbol of E.T. contact? Why is it a symbol of an extraterrestrial presence? Is it a literal extraterrestrial presence? And if it's just symbolic, still, why? I'm really curious about that. And I'd like to flow on to this question of, how do we see through illusions around this, and how do we perceive what's hidden in plain sight here as well? Because I feel like these are all connected to each other. Okay. So I feel the Arcturians very strongly, and I also feel this strong kind of owl spirit energy in the field as well, which I've already called in today. Okay, the Arcturians are saying, there are many symbols that appear to you because they've already been encoded in your unconscious through this lifetime, in your dreams, and in previous lifetimes. It's very easy for higher dimensional beings such as extraterrestrials, angels, and other guides of different dimensions and frequencies to communicate with you through symbols, because they are so activating of these dormant impressions left in your mind, body, and soul system. For example, crop circles are another example of this. Your mind, your unconscious, your dreams, your past lives, your soul already understands the entire volumes of passages that are encoded in these symbols. This is a quick way for us to communicate with you. Rather than hand you down volumes and volumes of new religious texts, we give you a single image, and that activates something in your mind. You may come to certain awarenesses and interests without understanding how they're connected to the symbol itself. It's almost that the symbol opens a door in your mind and you don't even understand that the door was open or that there was a key presented to you at all. Nevertheless, the memories of what these symbols are encoded with starts to spill out and become integrated in your daily life. Sometimes they remain as dreams. So you'll be haunted by certain symbols in your waking reality and in your sleeping reality. Though we would like to remind you here that from our perspective, your waking reality is more of a dream than your dream reality. It's more like you're gathering the symbols in your waking life the way people imagine symbols in a dream, but in your dream state, things are presented to you much more simply, much more clearly. Kelly, yes, you misspoke and said prevented. This is because you are perceiving your dreams as a realm in which you do not have access, where you are hidden from knowledge because this information lies in your dreams, a space that you don't always remember and don't always feel empowered to navigate. The more that you all engage with lucid dreaming, the more you will have extraterrestrial contact. This is because you will become aware of the contact that is already happening in your dream space. As you become aware of what's happening in your dream space, it becomes more integrated in your conscious mind, and you become more aware that this is possible and already happening. Essentially, it becomes normalized for you, and for those in the know about manifesting, you'll understand that what's normal to you is easy to manifest and inevitably manifests again and again in your life. It is not that something has to be prevalent around you, only that you perceive something as prevalent around you, much in the same way that your gratitude for something amplifies and multiplies that something, more than if it simply were there without your loving attention being placed on it. Owls are an especially provocative symbol for extraterrestrials in this entire galaxy, and it goes back to the avian beings in Lyra. The avian beings in Lyra were messages from other universes, other planes and dimensions of reality. And as the Lyrans in this galaxy began their architectural works of turning this galaxy into a physical playground and vibrant landscape, they began to be less and less in touch with those multi-dimensional frequencies and experiences. It's not that they forgot, only that their minds were concentrated on the physical. And so the avian beings became these divine messengers. So you see that even since the beginning of physical incarnation in this galaxy, winged beings have been bringing messages of other worlds and other experiences that their minds could not quite fathom. Therefore, it is very much encoded in the human DNA, which is highly extraterrestrial, to see these winged beings as messengers. And this has been an archetype, a symbol from star nation to star nation across the galaxy, not exclusive to Earth, landing here, but just working on a symbolism which is older than the Earth herself. Owls specifically are interesting animals to meet this extraterrestrial contact with, because they are not the only animals, not the only birds either, that carry this extraterrestrial frequency. You already mentioned whales and dolphins, Kelly, but jaguars, crickets, bees, octopuses, cats, and even some varieties of bears and wolves carry memories of star nations. But the owls seem to move in a much more eerie way, as if they refuse to be settled on the landscape. While a praying mantis may carry a memory for you of encountering an extraterrestrial being taking on this form, A praying mantis nevertheless integrates with the landscape. It potters about, however conspicuously or inconspicuously, and you accept it. An owl, however, differentiates itself for humans on the landscape. It always seems to stick out like a sore thumb. This is something that us as extraterrestrials don't quite understand about Earth humans. Perhaps it's something you can share with us, but when an owl meets you, you all watch and listen. You are very careful to heed its advice. This is something that indigenous cultures across the planet also understood very deeply, and it has not stopped with them, but is something that the earth and the trees herself seem to remember. As we said, there are many extraterrestrial energies hidden in plain sight, and there are levels to this discussion. Obviously, Kelly, you are not simply asking about which plants, flora, fauna, and fungi on the planet have extraterrestrial origins, because quite frankly, most of what's there on the Earth is extraterrestrial and exists across the galaxy. This is because the universe likes good math. Systems repeat. DNA is encoded not just in the physical matter, but in the blueprint of the universe itself. When stardust scatters across a matrix, it will naturally form similar shapes and recurring patterns. For example, while primates are native to your planet, this is not to say that primate and ape-like beings have not existed elsewhere in the galaxy and universe. Very little is unique to this part of the galaxy. What makes it unique is this particular mixture of energies, and Earth is an especially diverse landscape. You have many plants, animals, spirits, elementals, and fungi from all over the universe here on Earth. Although you may think of the galaxy itself as being this beautiful circus, this menagerie of different beings and landscapes and fantasy worlds all mingling together, Earth herself is a beautiful representation of this diversity in the universe. And if you look closely enough at your fellow human beings, you'll be able to see the different extraterrestrial DNA strands still humming, vibrating, and singing through your lineages. It is true that there are many genetic lineages on your planet that may feel more extraterrestrial than others. There are quite simply more races on this planet that are closer to those Star Nations beings by virtues of the way that the human evolved, or rather was manufactured over time. There is no hierarchy here. Every human being on the planet is just as healthy, diverse, radiant, soulful, source-connected, and intergalactic as any other. But some of these frequencies may seem more distinct based on what you feel as a contrast to your own extraterrestrial or Earth frequency, or what is rather in a closer resonance to your Earth frequency. For example, perhaps you meet a partner or a best friend who seems alien in the same way that you are. It feels like you might be the only two of your species on the planet, and this is a good indication that you are in resonance with their extraterrestrial DNA and soul energy. It is usually one for one, both. We tend to find human bodies that are a match for our soul frequency. It allows for a smoother integration, though there are exceptions to this. An example of an E.T. energy that is very different to yours is when you might feel physically repulsed by another person. By this, we don't mean that you see food in someone's teeth and you feel disgusted by them. We mean when someone quite literally gives you the heebie-jeebies walking down the street, when you see someone and they're not quite all there in the eyes, or there's something predatory about them, or something just a little bit uncanny, strange, vacant. Sometimes even somebody who's too happy or too playful or too innocent seems off-putting to us. And often this is because we're connecting to an extraterrestrial frequency that is quite alien compared to what we're used to on our soul journeys. There is nothing to do with this information except recognize it, feel it in your body. What does your system do when you encounter these energies that feel different to what is natural here on the planet? And again, when we say natural, more what you have come to see as unexceptional, ordinary, rather than natural in terms of belonging here more than anyone else. Again, Earth is a diverse place, and Gaia has welcomed us all here equally. But what you can do is recognize that shift in your body, recognize that shift in your system. How does your body respond when you're in the presence of someone who feels extraterrestrial in the same way that you are? Do your pores, either on your skin or in your auric field, seem to open to them? Do you seem to understand them? Do you talk more? Do you lean into them more? Do you feel magnetized to them? Or is there a certain flow or quality of your voice that changes? Pay attention to these. They're helping you tune your instrument. Likewise, when you feel slightly repelled by somebody, pay attention to what your body is doing, and do it in a non-judgmental, loving way that is accepting of the other being and of yourself in your feelings. What's happening within you? What part of you is closing up? What part of you is curious? What part of you is experiencing this newness on a soul level? And what part of you seems less, perhaps, excited on a soul or emotional level, but rather is a physiological response emerging from the body? This will give you clues about whether something is just a very potent ET energy that the body is responding to, or whether this is something or a being or a soul energy very new to you as an extra dimensional soul too. There are also ETs hiding in plain sight among you. Hiding is perhaps not even the correct word, as often starseeds who feel that they are starseeds in the truest sense will identify themselves so proudly. These ETs who were not born on this planet, so to speak, but who came here on later life, either as walk-ins or simply landing on your planet and taking a human form, whether that is through a kind of shape-shifting or holographic effect, or simply because they already look slightly human or humanoid in their original extraterrestrial form, and they use the psychology of humans to capture a projection that appears more human. This is to say that they do nothing actively to change what they look like to you, but because they pass for human enough, the human brain completes that narrative, essentially helps participate in that lie or in that representation, and allows them to look even more human. These ETs are also likely to announce themselves as extraterrestrials. They are not hiding so much, but they are not advertising either. You may find yourself in contact with these beings as you travel the world. They tend not to stay put in one place unless it is, for example, in mountain or forest areas where they are very connected to the land and where they can live in these more higher dimensional areas. Cities, for example, and suburban areas tend to be much too dense for these beings, and so they will either keep moving or stay in very isolated natural environments. When you happen across these beings, you may recognize their frequency, and you may like to practice kind greetings to practice and test this. A simple, warm smile with eye contact held a little bit longer can be enough to transmit a message of, "I see you and you're safe here, welcome." This allows you to continue practicing merging your frequency with this extraterrestrial frequency. And the more that you are able to interact with an extraterrestrial frequency in close proximity and with a calm nervous system, the more that your energy is merging with this, becoming part of your auric field, and then situating you per the law of attraction to receive more extraterrestrial contact. Therefore, if you have opportunities to talk with whales or dolphins or even watch videos about them, to owl gaze, owl watch, for example, or to simply bathe yourself in extraterrestrial frequencies as you connect with your loving guides, all of this is bringing you into a closer frequency with this and will make open contact faster and more seamless for you as an individual. We want to say at this time that many of you feel that there is a timeline for open contact, but on an individual level, this is something that you can voluntarily opt into. There is no wrong or right time for you to receive extraterrestrial contact in the flesh. Some of you have been chosen as emissaries, as ambassadors, as open contactees, and this includes those of you who have had sightings of what you call UFOs or UAPs on your planet. This is due to ramp up in time, but for the most part, this exposure is elective. In the same way that it's up to you if you knock on your neighbor's door and introduce them to the neighborhood, it's up to you whether you want to reach out and make contact with these extraterrestrial beings at this time. They are open to receiving your contact, and it is in the best interest of the collective if more and more individuals receive contact before open disclosure. It allows the individual to hold the frequency of a calm nervous system, welcoming, open, and accepting, that has a ripple effect and quite literally blazes that trail, paves the way, holds that frequency for others who are next in line to experience extraterrestrial energy and contact in an open, conscious, integrated way. What you are being promised is that ET contact is happening on an open and collective way very soon, sooner than you may think. 2 years is a solid trajectory for this open contact, but if you're paying attention, it is already happening now. This has already taken place throughout all levels of government in the United States, and this is happening quite publicly. Many of you will have to dig through conference hearings, congressional hearings, briefings, and other disclosed documents in order to see these details, but disclosure has already happened on the planet. It is simply up to the collective to open their eyes and ears and receive this information. And as soon as this can happen, at a point of roughly at least 50 to 60% of the global population acknowledging that this disclosure is already happening, will it become mainstream knowledge and open global acceptance and truth that we will all be asked to deal with. Again, we repeat, disclosure has already happened, and it is happening now. Can you see it, and can you recognize what is happening? People such as Stephen Greer have said that disclosure is happening one by one, but it's already happening on the global and collective scale. This is disclosure, and it is underway. The higher ups at the very top have recognized that this is happening. It is only that so much of the human population has their fingers in their ears saying la 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 la, that the rest of you are all standing around looking a little bit confused as to whether what you know to be happening is actually happening. It's as if you're being gaslit incidentally by a collective choosing to stay asleep at this time. And why are the collective choosing to stay asleep at this time? Because it has been an overwhelming few years with much revelation and much angst around climate change, around global health and disease, authoritarian control across the world, and the threat of various wars coming out have all led to a lethargy and a weariness among the population, which was very much planted there by design. There are darker forces on this planet, and even neutral forces on this planet, that understood that the more chaos and discord they could sow, the more that humanity would check out. They've understood this for a very long time, and you can see the examples of this from charity campaigns where people feel so overwhelmed with depression at the thought of some of these plights that they are essentially anesthetized from taking any action. There's been a grand experiment on your planet testing this again and again and again. Feeling overwhelmed, feeling too tuned in to the disorder and the panic and the depression on this planet leads to inaction. Often you're all told that it is noble to be aware of suffering, noble to be tuned into the news, some kind of cross to bear if you can, feel into all the problems on the planet and hold them like a sweet sacrificing empath. But this is having the opposite effect. Only through tuning into that peace and love within your own heart and mind can you free yourself enough to see and hear and take action. Because lies bring through the energy of lethargy. It is muscle weakness. It is crumbling. It is a feeling of not being moved at all, but wanting to fall back asleep, because lies beget more lies. Unconsciousness begets more unconsciousness. However, when you feel into the truth of peace and love in your heart, that you came to this planet for a reason, that you're not from here, that you have a mission to do, and that you wouldn't have elected to be here on this planet, and neither would the millions of children being born today have elected to be here on this planet if there weren't hope of saving the planet. And there is great hope. There is a fantastic chance, possibility, that everybody listening to this right now is firmly being steered towards a brighter future for the earth. And this possibility exists here and now, and it is firmly anchored and rooting, taking deeper roots more and more every day, and with every healing breath. And when you feel into this peace and love, and you understand that there is hope, more than hope, great possibility, and that we are on track for this, then you're motivated to take action. Then you're motivated to hear and see the truth. These are the feelings and the trajectories of those of you building systems for this new earth already. When you feel sad about the future, it's harder to take aligned action because you're not sitting in truth. When you have hope and possibility for the future, you build systems that will survive these periods of chaos and work as the new cities, the new temples, the new communities that will be foundational to this new world. Okay. Whoops. My computer froze up while I was talking, so I wonder if you got my image then. Maybe I'll put a pretty picture over the top. That was funny. That was a lot of talking. Okay, well, that feels like a lot of information that could be a bit, I don't know, like a lot to swallow at the moment. So I just want to see if there's another question here that I want to feel into at this time. And thank you so much to the Arcturian guides for being here and answering these questions for us. We're so grateful for your guidance, your love, and your healing support. You're here to so many millions of us on the planet, and we hope that we're making you proud down there and doing our bit with boots on the ground. It can be difficult to remember what we're supposed to be doing down here, but we're super grateful for your patience and encouragement, cheering us on all the way. All right. Okay. Oh, I've got so many questions here. Which one is leaping out? Okay. What are we allowed to know at this time, and what's still veiled? So this is a more, what's officially going on here. And I'm aware that I'm talking to Arcturians and not the Galactic Federation here. So Arcturians, I feel like a slight nervousness. I don't know if that's coming from me or them, but obviously I'm projecting it because our guides aren't nervous. But sometimes I get this energy from them of like, are you sure you want to know? Okay, I'm getting a bit excited here because I know that my purpose has a little bit to do with this as well. Okay. Oh, that's funny. If anyone follows Blossom Goodchild, she does these channeling videos with the Galactic Federation of Light, and I think she automatic writes, and then she gets somebody to narrate her content with her. So there's this beautiful masculine voice. I'm sorry, I don't know your name off the top of my head. That's just so beautiful. Who does the Galactic Federation transmission, and then she reads out her own parts. And I just got that voice of the person narrating that E.T. thing so strongly. And I've experienced that before where I've gone to channel and I've heard like Daryl Anker's voice in my head, almost as if Bashar's coming through, but just so clearly the voice of that person narrating, just this really warm, soft, like peaceful, soothing, calming voice. And it feels more disembodied, like it doesn't, I don't know what, I haven't been following Blossom Goodchild for that long, so I don't know if when she channels the Galactic Federation, if it's like some guy in a spacesuit meditating, sending her messages, or if it is more of a spirit, but this feels more disembodied and like a collective energy here. Let me feel into this so I can give you the best understanding I have of what I'm channeling. And I can also just ask, what's your name? Who are you? But sometimes that's harder to get a clear answer on because your ego wants to interject, but I'll just see what comes through. That's the thing about learning channeling. You're always learning because there's always new energies, new spirits, and new ways to receive information. All right, they're really inviting me to just repeat what I'm hearing, so I'm gonna do that. Kelly, thank you for trusting and for allowing us to speak through you today. We understand that there are many reasons to be suspicious and skeptical of the energies coming to you and the planet at this time. We respect this, and we ask that you always hold a frequency of love and gratitude in your heart as you sit down to tune in, as this does help to magnetize you to other beings of love and light in your field. When you sit down to channel and there's more of a reaching energy, where you feel that you need to prove something, to be of service, then this is likely inviting in more opportunistic or self-congratulatory energies. Trust that when you're sitting there, humble and open to receive, then the energies will meet you just the same. These questions you're asking are important, and the Galactic Federation is happy to help answer these. Kelly, we can feel your ego stirring, and we understand you'd like it to be known that you feel that we have hijacked your call a little bit. You have some suspicion around us at the Galactic Federation, and that is fair enough. Anybody at this time who claims to be in authority must be vetted with your own intuition and your love, because there are so many illusions at this time, and because you are all learning to trust your own sovereignty and to bow down to no master, teacher, or authority, but only to that love inside your heart, which you may call God, the universe, love, source. Whatever it is that resonates with you to help you live with full vitality, abundance, compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. What are you allowed to know at this time? The Arcturians have allowed us to move into this call because they are respecting a certain agreement among the collective energy supporting the planet at this time that some information will be withheld as certain operations continue to unfold on this planet. You are not being blocked from this information. Every single one of you can tune into this at any time. But when you make an effort to broadcast this information, there are certain protections that we like to maintain so that the information does not fall into the wrong hands. This information is strategic, it's underground, behind closed doors, but is also more subtle. There are many great revolutions happening across the surface of this planet that you will not even recognize as being part of this open revolution of love, bringing you all deeper into the galactic community and in greater reverence for your planet. Some of these seem innocuous, quite harmless, or even vapid on the surface, but are set to take more foundational presences across the surface. And these too are strategic efforts. Perhaps some of you in contact with some of these will recognize them as these kinds of Trojan horses that are meant to bring more love and openness across the planet. This word, Trojan horse, comes up a lot in your research, Kelly, whether it's ways that the Greys and AI have been maligned or ways in which certain energies can mask themselves as you acclimate to them. We would like you to understand that this word Trojan horse, this term, this archetype in your collective human memory, refers to an ambush. But extraterrestrials have always had to come to this planet through secret passageways. When you look to human history, you will find evidence of chariots in the sky, but you also find underground caverns. You also find stargates, portals of various kinds, energy centers such as pyramids and temples made for channeling. The extraterrestrial on this planet has always had to come slightly veiled so that the integrity of the human experience could be maintained on this planet. It is almost as if we are not allowed to come onto the set of Earth unless we put on the costume first and look like an extra. Yes, Kelly, you're getting imagery from that movie, The Truman Show, coming up again. And this is also not a coincidence, but a form of disclosure. In fact, you could look at most of Jim Carrey's career as a form of disclosure happening on a subconscious, symbolic level, slowly activating all of you into the remembering that you are all on a big theatre set. So when we say that we are bringing changes to your planet discreetly, think of it like the furniture or the backdrop being rearranged as something happens downstage. There's the distraction, the flashing lights, the fierce songs and monologues, so that it's not quite so disruptive when the set suddenly changes in the background. Likewise, you are due for that 3-second blackout where the lights will go off, and when they come back on, the set and the costumes have all been rearranged. This is something we can promise you is happening soon, and this 3-second blackout, as we call it, is serving the highest good and ultimate healing of all involved. There will be much of what looks like chaos happening on this planet, but trust this. The light never allows anything to happen that is not for the highest good. Hear this and know that it is true for you in your life and across the life that you have lived up to date on a global collective level and for you individually. The light never allows anything to happen that is not for the highest good. Everything that has been allowed to happen to you personally and this planet happened deliberately, happened because we saw that you would come back stronger and more awake from it, happened because we understood that the earth had cycles to move through so that she could make space for more abundance and more vitality, which is beginning to emerge now in full force. These 3 seconds of blackout that are coming are not something that can be prepared for through any other means than learning to trust your intuition. Yes, there are things you can do, such as preparing water and food for a few days of darkness. However, most of this will be inconsequential. You can survive quite easily for multiple days without food or water. This is not a life or death situation. Mostly there will be fear, mostly there will be panic, and mostly there will be people taking exit points because they did not wish to persevere through this phase of Earth's development. But what you can do is practice listening to your intuition in every moment, trusting that voice of love, which is peaceful, steady, comforting, assuring, sometimes exciting, but mostly quiet and persistent. When you can learn to differentiate your intuition from mere excitement, from anxiety especially, and when you can stop handing your power and authority over to others, whether they are your parents, politicians, church leaders, or friends in your community, when you can learn to listen instead to that own voice and love inside of you, then you are prepared for these 3 seconds or 3 days of darkness. This is not to say that there are not those you can trust, but only that everybody will be thrown into a state of mere panic, or if not panic, slight agitation. This is not a reflection of how spiritually evolved or how loving they are. All of you light workers and empaths are tuned into the collective energy. And if something as sizable as this is happening across the planet, you will experience that discomfort and that anxiety as well. It is a natural part of being part of the collective, which you inevitably are. No matter how you ground, protect, or guard yourself, you are connected to this collective energy and you will experience the shockwaves. However, do not mistake this fear or this agitation in your body and in your system as indication of what's to come. You can always feel the energy below the surface level chaos, and you do not have to go very deep at all. Imagine that oil has been poured over water. If you're swimming in this water with your head above it, it may look as if you're swimming in oil, but all you have to do is hold your breath and go under the surface for just the smallest of minutes, the briefest of windows, the shortest of centimeters, not even meters under the water, but just dip yourself under slightly and you'll see that you're not swimming in oil, but actually the water is clear. Actually, things are much more still and pristine underneath. And you all have the ability to read and feel these levels and layers to energy. To some of you, it may be easier to go above the clouds, to rather sink deeper into yourself and find this knowing, to go above the earth and get a read on what the energy looks like from the distance. This is fine and effective too, but we do urge you all to become more acquainted with your body and the earth herself, as it is not the sky that is transforming at this time. Your friends in the galaxy have always been there, and for now they remain in their chapter and season, watching on to Earth. Earth is the one undergoing this metamorphosis, and so if you really want to take the temperature of what's happening at any given time, sink into your body, sink into the planet. Her body is your body. You are the Earth itself. What you're allowed to know is that this period of darkness is coming and that it will shake much up for the collective. It is connected to extraterrestrial disclosure, and we do urge you all to spend more time looking at the sky. We'll see you there. Okay, wow, it has gotten quite dark as I've sat here. Okay, I hope that something useful came out of all of that. Thank you to the Galactic Federation for coming through. I wasn't totally expecting that, but I did think it might be a possibility. I'm very grateful for this communion with the Galactic Federation of Light, with the Arcturians, with my guides and angels, all of our guides and angels, and my higher self. Thank you for making this possible. I'm super excited to be in the space. I've got a Circle of Light call coming up tomorrow morning and another one later on in this week where I'm teaching everybody how to channel and how to unlock your intuitive gifts and how to do it in all these different ways. And I have been getting the prompt lately that developing our intuition is going to be really important for these times ahead. So that was a lovely confirmation, and I'm sitting here quietly redoing some workshop plans that I've got in my head. And I also have a call on Wednesday night, which is about galactic homesickness and how to connect with our starseed family. I'm going to show you how to work out what kind of starseed energy you are, how to tune in, and basically what this longing means for you and your purpose. It's going to be a really exciting call. It's all open. You're welcome to donate to attend, but otherwise your loving presence and your curiosity is a fantastic energetic contribution, and I really appreciate it. People show up, and even if they're quiet, just engage and sharing their energy. It really makes a huge difference to the space. So thank you, everybody. I'm so excited and grateful to be on this planet with you and doing this work. And now I'm grateful to go do something else with my beautiful partner. Bye, everybody.